Hello, Miami. It's my pleasure to be here. No one I like talking sports more with than Gables coach Roger Pollard. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And a bonus treat over here, we have the one and only man cave host, Andy Korge.
Well,
Thanks for being here.
I've never been called a bonus treat before, and my wife could, definitely could argue that point. But thank you.
So glad you're here. We for those who don't know, 12:10 a.m. Winker Wednesday. I'm on with Andy on his show. He has a show every day, 10 to noon. It's must listen. I often describe the show to people as we've seen sports radio go through a lot of mutations, and I always say it went from kind of the blowhard know-it-all kind of paradigm to almost like the Dan Le Batard, like what do we really know about anything? And there's a tension right now, I think, on this idea of shut up and dribble. And I always say your show is kind of the opposite of shut up and dribble. Like, we want to talk about sports is politics. And it's interesting for me personally because sports is almost like my soap opera. Like it's kind of embarrassing, but like I'll name the depth chart for the Dolphins. The Canes. I've watched these kids in high school. Like, I feel part of the team, and like that's the passion of it. So,
the greatest drama in the world is sports, right? I mean, you never know how it's going to turn out. 100%. It must drive you crazy sometimes, Coach Pollard. I mean,
it doesn't matter what's on paper. It's about performance. Like, we're in a performance-based field, so you can be the best on paper, but it really matters about how you show up on game day or on tip-off. You can be great in practice, but if you're not great in games, it really doesn't matter.
Do you see, if you don't mind me asking, do you see that a lot? Do you see players that, this guy can't do anything in practice, but man, when we get to the game, is that a weird phenomenon? Do you find that a weird phenomenon?
It's not, because we're so product-driven instead of process-driven. So, kids, you're good at what you put your emphasis on, or you will eventually be good at. It's not 100%. But if you don't work on the finer crafts of your skill in practice, and maybe you're just that much more athletic than the kids that you're playing with in your cohort, then yeah, we do see it. But as you start getting to different levels, the difference in athleticism starts to equalize, and now we start going more into, what are your rituals? How do you take care of your body? What are you doing? Like, how are you a true student of the game? So on the lower levels, yeah, of course, because and especially in their range, where there'll be one summer there's a kid that's 5'8", and then the next summer he's 6'2", right? So we do see it, but we really try and hone into the skills of the kids and specific, saying, look, put your rituals into your process. Not all about just product, not all about game day. Get better and work on your craft day in and day out.
And this is what I love. I love talking to Coach. I find Coach so inspiring. And it was funny because there's a reporter here in town, pretty prominent reporter, female reporter, and she called me and she said, I watch Coach Pollard. And I was like, really? Like, I didn't want to sound sexist, but I'm like, really? You did? Like, why? Why? And she's like, well, whatever, it popped up on my screen. And she said, I played volleyball in high school, and I need a coach in my life. Like, Coach, I watched Coach Pollard, and I just was inspired all day. Like, it was like the way Coach talked about, like, set your goals. Then how, that's not enough. Then how do you do it? And it's like, it's interesting, like, tugging into the life lessons of what he's saying about. And it's funny, being a fan and following Gables football, part of what I think forces that, Andy, is like, Coach shows up and, here's his linebackers and they weigh 140 pounds. And I've seen Coach have to coach them up, right? What do you do when you got these undersized kids?
At the end of the day, for us, it's about right place and right time. And whether or not you're NFL, whether or not you're college, whether or not you're high school, little league, you're not talking about the difference makers. You're not talking about the Frank Gores, right? That's an anomaly. It's be where you're coached to be. Do your job, no matter. And then ultimately having trust in the person next to you, right? If I don't do my job, it might not mean that I'll make the tackle, but if I do my job, my teammate will make a tackle, and now it's 2nd and 10, or now we're off the field and now it's 3rd and 10. So It's getting them to trust the process, getting them to understand the overall scheme and how they fit into it, and get away from the fantasy football stats. Your opponent dictates your stats, right? Like kids, when we talk about goal setting, well, I want to have 10 sacks this game. Well, what if another team doesn't? What if they don't run the ball? I mean, what if they don't pass the ball?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You better be blocking that. You better be blocking up that middle.
100%. Right. Stats have nothing to do with it. Stats have everything to do with you taking advantage of the opportunity within the life of that opportunity, but the other team dictates what your stats are going to look like.
Let me ask you: has fantasy football made it harder to coach these kids in a way?
Not so much fantasy football because they're not in that realm. I'd say ESPN, right? Like everybody wants to highlight, and the majority of the game isn't won on the highlight.
Right.
It's won through the monotony of 1st and 10, third down conversions, penalties, turnovers. So we're glorifying the big moments, but the big moments aren't the only moments, and it's the biggest thing about life is it's not only about the biggest moments, it's about the work that you put in and day out when nobody is watching you.
And not to nerd out, but last night there was an amazing game between American Heritage Plantation for the Patriots. Jacksonville Trinity Christian came down, 7-time state champ. Yeah. And the score of the game, Andy, was 3-0. Trinity won. And as football nerds, we love games like that, right?
Yeah.
Like any purist is like, whoa. I mean, there wasn't a score till the fourth quarter. And it was interesting because I think about a game like that, think about football that people don't realize. It's a little bit like baseball too, is that grinding mentality. So think about that guy, that lineman, he just beats his man, but they don't score anything. And then finally they've worn him down enough to get, like there's a 4 quarters to this. It's a grind.
Yes.
Well, I posted a video on I think it was Instagram about this one high school team last play of the game, and they were throwing the ball back, and then they finally score. And it doesn't matter who you are rooting for. When you're watching that play, you can feel the excitement when they finally push through. When they find, the one person who gets it and the one guy that misses the tackle, and then all of a sudden, victory. So everybody loves the underdog. Everybody loves a hard-fought match because that's what life is. Right?
All right, we're gonna stop nerding out for a second, but just talk about nerding out. Did anyone watch Arch Manning, that Thursday night high school game in New Orleans?
I was
16-year-old kid. All the Mannings are in the stands watching him.
Really?
National TV, and the kid tore it up. And
I assume he's a quarterback.
Yeah, he's the quarterback. And I swear to you, it made me think, Coach, I was thinking all the work that this kid's put in to be at this moment and not to fold at that moment, right? And they were playing a team. It was I can't remember the name of theirs. You could tell it was a fancy. It looked almost like American Heritage. It had that kind of weird building right on the side, real fancy looking. And then they were playing Booker T. Washington, whatever, Booker T. Washington, New Orleans. And it was kind of the team with a lot of white kids, and then there was the team that seemed like it was all black kids. Yeah. And it was an amazing game. It was really cool to see on national TV, but just it made me think about your ESPN. I was like should 16-year-old kids really be on national TV playing football?
Well, right now, yeah. What else?
What are we gonna watch? There was nothing else to watch.
But they are entertainers, and football is America's game, right? So.
But it is an interesting phenomenon how high school football has kind of become big business. Now you see these games on ESPN, on ESPNU. When we were kids, you never saw that, right? Well, but it is entertainment. They're great players.
It is entertainment, but that's directly tied into technology, right? Technology when we were growing up, for us to get on the internet, right? It would take us 10 minutes of dial up, and if someone called the house, you get booted off. So, so there are some things that we're seeing right now today that are directly tied into, our accessibility, because we all have, these are little computers, so.
But I wonder if that phenomenon too has changed just the mind of a typical high school football player.
I'd say 100%. What Steve Jobs says, these things, they work on the dopamine in your mind,
right?
And I was just having a conversation with my coaching staff last night where, you can tell the difference between kids who are doing it because they want more likes, right? They want to take the pictures. They're on the Instagram because they're trying to get the retweets and the likes because I'm in a jersey. And then there are the kids that love the sport, and it's a hard sport, right? It is difficult. So you see something where, the reference to the youngest Manning, everybody has to put in 10,000 hours to get into a certain level, and the only thing that you can do to make that a little shorter is gain some tutelage, gain some knowledge from someone who's and what greater source of wealth of information about playing that position than from this Manning or that Manning or this Manning, So he's got a terrific.
And it's interesting. The other thing I'd say about the game is I was watching BYU play Houston last night, and the BYU quarterback is this like phenom, going to be an NFL prospect, and they were asking what makes him so good. And they were talking about, now the new thing is with the quarterbacks, the different arm angles. He's really good at the different arm angles. But they said, the female sideline reporter was talking about it. They said, like, this kid just is a film junkie. Like, this is a kid that just does football 24/7. And she spent the day with him, and it was just going through, like, the kid apparently spent like 8 hours just doing film. He was watching like 2009 like Auburn games and stuff. Like, it was really interesting to hear. We all know the work that goes into it.
I just told the kids yesterday, like how the human brain works. When you see somebody taking part in an activity, the same neurons, the mirror neurons, fire in your brain. So the only thing that differs is perception. So I think the Spider-Man ride at Universal, they put you in a booth, they put the big screen, and you're seeing these things, and they add a little wind, and you really feel like you're falling, or you really feel, and that's how your brain works. So there is a mental aspect behind film study, behind, hey, you're not in getting this rep, but you can learn from the person in front of you. So just giving them those. I'm full of useless or useful information.
Useful.
No, I'm the one with useless information over here in the show.
Muscle memory.
Yeah. Oh, well,
hey,
well,
Grant, get in here. Get in here. Grant, we want you to put down your food, your stuff in your face. Coach has a gift for you.
Oh, yes.
100%.
Now, you know why we're doing this. Get in the screen here. You know why we're doing this for you?
Because you're tired of me.
Because we're tired of hearing about Columbus. That's all we hear from Grant is Columbus.
It doesn't make sense. I like it.
There you
Grant
go.
looking good, man.
There
Coral
And
Coral Gables football all in.
So it is muscle memory.
100%.
This muscle is harder than the physical memory. That's why the true pros, whether in high school, college, all the way up, whoever's watching this film is not watching what to do, how to react. And some of the weaker athletes watch it so much they don't know they're weaker because they know the game.
Right.
They're a student of the game, and you're making these kids student of the game. I have to interject. I had a kid. I say a kid.
Yeah.
Get in the screen.
25 years old, came in. He was here for some other event. Got on a show with me, one-on-one, talked about you, how you changed his life.
Oh.
He's like, what
Is that gratifying for you to hear things like that? I mean, I imagine it's incredibly gratifying.
Well, I when I
find out his name.
first started, I told people, we're changing the future, right? If you're an educator, if you're a teacher, it's not only, and we're seeing right now in this pandemic, it's not only about, like, education isn't only about education. It's about social bond theory, right? The different, for kids, the different positive influences through adults actually makes a difference. And there are kids who are out there who love me. There are kids out there who hate me. But I do have some interesting relationships with kids who we didn't see eye to eye. Right, the standard is the standard, and I'm not. I've been here before. I've been your age. You haven't been mine, and we had a disagreement. And now they come back as young men and say, "Wow." I understand that. Those are the ones that I really love, because that shows
the journey.
That
the journey they went
because
on.
Because no one starts out a winner, right? David isn't David if he doesn't beat Goliath.
Nadir.
Nadir, yeah. That's exactly who I'm talking about.
Wow.
Yeah, that's exactly who I was talking
Quinn is a
about.
senior. Right?
Yeah,
And he said
100%.
he changed his life as a junior.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's awesome.
It's and he comes back and he talks to the team, and it's getting into the mind of a little kid who knows everything.
I mean, it's quite a responsibility, don't you think?
Yeah, it is only if you're up for the challenge, right? Because you can go, and that's the hardest thing about education is it's hard to measure, right? And my relationship with a kid might not necessarily be your relationship with a kid, right? Because now we're talking about perspective, and perspective drives performance. So I might come at something, or I might say something, or I might go this way, and it won't work for this kid, but it'll work for that kid. So now, and that's where it's just really, really, really hard to measure.
And then the one thing I'd say about that is it's interesting because as an educator, but it's also like we're measuring the hell out of you, Coach.
Yeah.
Because results matter. Like it's an interesting thing, right? It's like our charge to coach is produce better men, but.
Right.
But God damn it, he better win some football games. Like it's an interesting animal.
But it's and that's where it moves back to, and all you can ever do is increase the probability. So ultimately, if we get kids who will follow directions, right, who will be where they're supposed to be, it's going to make them better in life, but it's also going to make them better football players because everybody has a play. Like every coach coaches. Right? If you're over at that school I won't speak of, or here, we're both having meetings. We both have a game plan, and it's about the ability to execute, right? And that's what life is, the ability to execute. I may not feel like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning because I'm sore or I'm this, but I understand that there are certain responsibilities that I have to take care of. So our big thing right now is we can talk about rights, but let's really talk about our responsibility. And the number one responsibility is the responsibility to yourself.
So before we wrap up, because we're running out of time.
Talked about changing lives. Do you know who he is? His son played for you, Robert Williams.
Oh yeah. Oh,
come on over here.
Yeah.
Get in here.
All right.
Nice Chargers hat.
He played at Rutgers, right?
Played at Temple.
Temple, sorry.
Yes, sir.
And tell him about your son's. Where is your son now?
Purdue University.
Yeah,
Robert
he's
Williams.
at Purdue.
Wow.
Yeah, made up.
Yeah.
What about this coach? Anything good about him?
Good man here. Yeah. You know, I went a lot through. You know, me and my wife. It was my son's senior year when he met this coach here, and my son had a great year. You know.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. We love having Coach on. I was telling Coach, it's like he crosses over into these principles are life principles.
Right.
You know, like we're talking about life principles. We're talking about reaching young men at a critical stage on what's important on life and to be the best. You know, it goes, I don't have to tell you, fathers, sons, husbands, brothers. It just keeps on and on.
Well, listen, a coach is an incredible influence in a young person's life.
100%.
You're capturing them at a point in their life where they're very influenced and could go in a lot of different directions.
Right.
So it's quite a responsibility. And I imagine coaching at a place like Coral Gables with the incredible history, even more, is it more of a responsibility being at a place with such history?
No, I guess it matters how you look at it. You know, how what I look at is I say what I want to do is I don't ever want anybody to have higher expectations for me than me, right? Like I want to aim at the stars, flat out, and whether or not you think I'll get there, that's an opinion, you know. So the standard for us right now is to get back to where we were when we had that storied tradition. Like Coral Gables was it in
the country?
The amount of names we were talking about, all the guys. Like you're asking me who was the best player to come to.
Yeah,
Coral Gables.
who is that best player of all time?
Weigh in. We're talking about best player in Gables history, but we're breaking it up: defense, offense.
Yeah, Frank Gore's still playing right now, so he's definitely
Hard to
It's
argue.
hard to argue with Frank Gore.
But you've got so many different people from so many different eras: the Craig Currys, the Gerald Tinkers. I used to watch film from the '70s with the kids. I was like a little fan of Bertie Taylor because he was dynamite. the Gerald Tinkers who won a gold medal.
Yes.
Ralph Ortega, Jonathan Vilma.
Yeah, those are my guys from my era. Ralph Ortega, Neil Colsey,
100%.
and Ortega being a Gator, I'm a Gator. I mean,
Everybody
I
makes
loved
mistakes.
Ralph
That's okay.
Ortega.
Yeah, nah, he was a guy. So
Yeah.
there were just so many kids, and that's what we're trying to bridge that gap for the kids, and understanding that there were a lot of kids that came through here that did it a certain way, and we all have ego, and all, especially athletes. You've got that competitive attitude and nature that I am the best. But it's not only about you; it's about carrying on the tradition of the people who have passed here before you. And if you do it the way that they did it, which is, show up, shut up, work hard, and listen. Right, not just only voicing your opinion and all of those things. You're going to have a certain level of success.
All right, we got to wrap up real quick. Your schedule. Give us. Not to put you on the spot, but what's the schedule coming up?
We are Thursday coming up. We're going to have a scrimmage versus South Miami. That's going to be closed. Then we're going down to Southridge the Friday after that. Then
That counts. That game is.
That will be a game.
That's the first
Southridge.
That'll be
You're
Southridge,
taking on those
down
Ridge
at
Rats.
Southridge, 100%.
Trojans.
And then we're going to be at school versus Coral Reef after that, and then we're going down, and then we're going to play South Dade at Harris Field, and then we're playing that team I will not.
Yeah, we will
speak
not.
of.
We will not name.
Right. That
For the
Friday.
season finale.
They're all Fridays. We're down, up, but it's really great.
Can I just say one thing before we go?
Yes.
My first remembrance as a young kid is my dad taking me to see Gables and Miami High play in the Orange Bowl.
Really?
And I was probably 4 or 5 years old. And
What year?
it was probably 65, maybe. It was packed. There must have been 50,000 people in the stands. I think the next Friday night, the Canes had maybe half that amount of crowd in the Orange Bowl for their game.
That's when it was rocking. Like when 2000, like right before they demolished the Orange Bowl, Gables and Miami High played at the Orange Bowl for that. That last time for that. So it's the Gables tradition. The high school football tradition down here is rich. It is thick.
Yeah.
And we just got to do more to bring that.
Well, keep it up, Coach. We got to wrap up. I hope we can get you to come back. I know Saturday's tough, and I know it was, as the season goes on, but we love the perspective, and I emphasize high school football because of its importance, but also the level of excellence. No one does high school football. I mean, you can talk about Texas, you can talk about California. We are producing more D1 athletes, more NFL players anywhere than anywhere in the country.
And you know what, David? It starts with the coaches, guys like him.
Well, and the dads.
And the dads.
and
Yeah.
the moms.
It's the culture. It is the culture.
It's a culture.
Like you can't.
And I got a real quick story. I got to tell you something. I was thinking about it. I was at South Miami. I'm coaching my daughter's baseball. She's the only girl on the boys' baseball team, but I'm coaching it. And the little, what are they called? The Gray Ghosts? The South Miami Gray Ghosts are doing it. And they're cracking it. Full pads, doing it. And here comes African-American grandma, looked like she was 80 years old, and she comes, grabs her kid off the field, and starts yelling at him. I just stopped. I was like, oh, that's why we're good at football.
Yeah,
Grandma is getting this 7-year-old straight right now.
It is important. You are going to care about it, and that's it. It's built in. Even Mado paid at the Grey Ghost. So
Grey Ghost.
It's hopefully we can get more players from there. And
I wear a Grey Ghost hat a lot of times on the weekends, sailing and on the boats and stuff. And I mean, I don't know that I wear a hat that gets more common. Hey, my kid did Grey Ghost. Hey, Grey Ghost. Awesome. Thanks, guys. We got to get out of here, but appreciate you being here. Nice meeting you, man.
All right.
Great. Thanks.
What's up, man?
Good to see you.
All right, good to see you, man.
Yes, sir.
All right. I had to get my other son in this.
Yeah.
All right. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Are you going to be coming on Saturdays?
How is he doing?
Yeah, I'm going to try to
We
do
were
come
just
more.
talking about